Welcome back to Diabetes Food Truth. In today's video, we'll be looking at how muscle mass improves insulin sensitivity and lowers blood sugar. When most people are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or told they have insulin resistance, the conversation usually focuses on food. Cut carbohydrates, reduce sugar, lose weight. And yes, nutrition absolutely matters. But there is another factor that is just as powerful and often completely overlooked. Muscle mass. Not fitness for aesthetics, not bodybuilding, just healthy, functional, skeletal muscle. Because muscle is one of the most metabolically important tissues in your entire body. And if you understand this properly, it completely changes how you approach blood sugar control. Let's start with the basics. When you eat carbohydrates, they are broken down into glucose, which enters your bloodstream. In response, your pancreas releases insulin. Insulin's job is to move glucose from the blood into cells, so it can be used for energy or stored. You can think of insulin as a key. It unlocks the door to your cells. When you are insulin sensitive, that key works efficiently. A small amount of insulin moves glucose into cells quickly. Blood sugar rises slightly, then returns to normal. But when you are insulin resistant, the cells stop responding properly. The key doesn't fit the lock as well, so the pancreas produces more insulin to compensate. Over time, insulin levels stay chronically elevated. Blood sugar remains high. And this is the foundation of type 2 diabetes. Now, here is the critical piece that many people don't realize. Around 70 to 80% of glucose disposal after a meal happens in skeletal muscle, not fat tissue, not the brain, not primarily the liver. Muscle, which means muscle is your main glucose storage system. The more healthy muscle mass you have, the greater your capacity to store glucose safely. Think of muscle as a warehouse. If the warehouse is large, glucose can be stored efficiently. If the warehouse is small, glucose has nowhere to go. So it stays in the bloodstream. Elevated blood sugar is often not just about how much glucose comes in. It's about how much capacity you have to deal with it. And muscle dramatically increases that capacity. But muscle doesn't just store glucose. It actively improves insulin sensitivity. Inside muscle cells are transport proteins called GLUT4 transporters. When insulin is released, these transporters move to the cell surface and allow glucose to enter the muscle cell. The more responsive your muscle tissue is, the better this system works. Now here's something even more powerful. When you contract a muscle, during resistance training, lifting weights, climbing stairs, even brisk walking, muscle contraction itself stimulates GLUT4 activity. This means glucose can enter muscle cells independently of insulin. In simple terms, muscle contractions pull glucose out of the bloodstream without relying entirely on insulin. That's why a walk after a meal can significantly reduce a blood sugar spike. That's why resistance training improves glucose control. That's why physically active people often have better insulin sensitivity, even at the same body weight. Muscle is not passive. It is metabolically active. Now let's look at the other side of the equation. What happens when muscle mass decreases? As we age, we naturally lose muscle, a process known as sarcopenia. From around the age of 30 onwards, muscle mass gradually declines unless actively maintained. Sedentary lifestyles accelerate this. Long periods of sitting reduce muscle stimulation. Low protein intake impairs muscle repair. Crash dieting leads to muscle breakdown. and rapid weight loss without resistance training often results in a significant loss of lean mass. This is important because if you lose weight but also lose muscle, your metabolic rate drops, your glucose storage capacity shrinks, and long-term insulin sensitivity may worsen. This is why focusing purely on the scale can be misleading. Two people can weigh the same. One may have significantly more muscle mass and better insulin sensitivity. Body composition matters more than body weight alone. And this becomes even more relevant when discussing aggressive calorie restriction or certain weight loss medications. If muscle is not preserved during weight loss, metabolic health can suffer long-term. So instead of asking, "How quickly can I lose weight?" a better question might be, "How can I improve my body composition while protecting muscle?" The good news is you do not need extreme measures. You do not need to train like an athlete. Research consistently shows that resistance training 2 to 3 times per week significantly improves insulin sensitivity. Even modest increases in muscle mass make a measurable difference. So, what actually works? First, resistance training. This includes bodyweight exercises such as squats, push-ups, lunges, free weights like dumbbells or barbells, resistance machines in a gym, resistance bands at home. The key principle is progressive overload, gradually increasing the challenge placed on the muscle so it adapts and becomes stronger. Second, adequate protein intake. Muscle requires amino acids to repair and grow. Spreading protein evenly across meals can help optimize muscle protein synthesis, especially as we age. Third, regular movement throughout the day. Not just one gym session. Frequent muscle activation improves glucose disposal. Even a 10 to 15-minute walk after meals can meaningfully reduce post-meal blood sugar spikes. Fourth, sleep. Poor sleep increases insulin resistance and impairs muscle recovery. And finally, consistency. Muscle is metabolically active tissue, but it requires maintenance. If your goal is to improve insulin sensitivity, reduce blood sugar, or support remission of type 2 diabetes, nutrition is only part of the strategy. Muscle mass fundamentally changes your metabolic environment. More muscle means greater glucose storage capacity, improved insulin signaling, lower circulating insulin levels, better metabolic flexibility, higher resting metabolic rate, and protection against age-related metabolic decline. So instead of just shrinking your body, strengthen it. Instead of only reducing intake, improve capacity. Because the goal isn't simply weight loss, it's metabolic health. Build muscle, improve insulin sensitivity, support long-term blood sugar control. If you found this helpful and you want more clear, evidence-based strategies to improve blood sugar and support real remission, hit subscribe now. Thanks for watching.